A single photograph from the 19th century, the only evidence of what Samson the steam engine ever looked like. Long since destroyed, but today risen from the scrap heap, thanks to 5,000 painstaking hours of recreation from 79-year-old David Thomas Young.
Well, I'd worked on other locomotives here. This was particularly historic, and I got carried along, if you like, by the enthusiasm of other people. So it's 4 years ago now I was asked if I would construct it, and I was quite agreeable because I'd already worked on other engines.
It may look pint-sized, but this tough little engine faced some of the harshest conditions, chuffing and heaving its way through its home in the wilderness of Weardale.
The original was built in 1874 for the London Lead Company. It worked at Cornish Hush Lead Mine, which is over between Frostley and Eggleston in Teesdale. It only worked, we think, for about 8 years, if that. We know nothing about how it went. In 1904, 1905, it was scrap. We know it went for scrap.
The story of Samson has even inspired its co-engineer Paul to write a book about the project, which brought this locomotive back to life.
It was the engine no one else would build, so the appeal here has always been doing things differently. This was the fourth locomotive Dave and I have worked on together, and they've all been quirky or unusual, it would be fair to say. So Samson really is kind of the end of the line, really, I suppose, in that regard. But you don't see many locomotives like that, which are based on a traction engine design on railway wheels. When you're working in a project, you're so immersed with it, you never step back to actually look at it and the scope of it and the scale of it. But, you know, we're so far from the original, when it was scrapped in 1904, that it is kind of amazing to look at a 3D recreation of it now.
Paul hopes that the story may even one day see Samson return to its original line in the Dales.
It's quite likely the original wasn't terribly successful. You're really dealing with a technology that was one step up from a horse. So it was going into an environment where the men who worked with the locomotive were used to using horses. I think they would have probably been, you know, fairly wary of this new technology.
And here at Beamish, David has followed on the family tradition of steam engineering from his great-great-grandfather.
Various members of the family, grandfather, great-grandfather, all worked at Lambton Engine Works, which was a large locomotive place. But I've just liked making things, and I belong to a generation where if you wanted something, you had to make it. It's totally absorbing activity. I've got two grandsons who are showing great talent, and I'm sincerely hoping that they come along on these lines.
Mark Patterson for Made in Llanydwear at Beamish.